What's up, American Association fans? It's another edition of Inside the Association, and today we're talking about the folks that can just grind out at-bats with the best of them. I'm Carter Woodiel. He is Steve Schuster, the voice of the Winnipeg Goldeyes, and we're talking today about the best two-strike hitters in the American Association. Now, hitting with two strikes is not easy for anybody. You always want to be ahead in the count, but it's really valuable, especially in a league like the Association where you're trying to grind through opposing pitching staffs to get some longer at-bats and to be able to be productive with two strikes. And I know, Steve, you poured through the numbers for this past season and took a look at who was going to be sort of had the best batting average in two-strike situations. And there's a lot of exciting player names that we can see on here. There's a lot of value, of course, that comes with this. Manuel Boscan is there. Kevin Krause is there. Those guys were fighting for the batting title all season. But there are also some more surprising names that I think I want to talk about with this, including guys like Michael Woodworth, who's in there at the number 2 spot, and Aaron Takis, who's in there at number 4. Those are younger players that really made an impact, and it's interesting to see that quantified here.
Yeah, absolutely, Carter. I mean, the American Association, it continues to get more and more experienced every year. It seems like each season, every team has one or two more ex-AAA or ex-Major League players on their rosters. So it gets really difficult for guys like Aaron Takis and Michael Woodworth, who had lesser professional experience, and in some cases, guys coming straight out of college, to really just hold their own, let alone succeed at the rate that they did. But Takis, I thought, was a really great story, especially playing for the traveling Houston Apollos team last year, putting up the numbers that he did. Michael Woodworth, albeit in a smaller sample size, hit over 360 for the Gary South Shore Railcats. And as he mentioned, their two-strike batting averages right up there with some of the best players in the league, including the two guys in Manuel Boscan and Kevin Krause that were 1 and 2 in the league in batting average. One important thing is to kind of put this in context, that because the two-strike situations, they include all your 0-2 and 1-2 counts, the counts that certainly favor the pitchers and often result in not only outs, but result in strikeouts, that you want to put it in context. And the league average in a two-strike situation in the American Association was 187. So that means if you're hitting like 220 or 230 with two strikes, you're actually doing well above average, and you're giving yourself at least an opportunity to try and dig yourself out of those two-strike situations. So for all those guys on the list, to be hitting up around 300, or in some cases guys hitting over 300 with two strikes, is just a testament to what they're able to do, shortening up their swings, or just really adjusting their approach when they're behind in the count to put up those types of numbers. But certainly Takis and Woodworth stand out. Wyatt Ulrich, straight out of college, and of course was the American Association Rookie of the Year, is up in that group. The other guy that really stands out to me is DJ Peterson, who it was almost like a folk hero down in Cleburne that final month, maybe as good a month as anyone has ever had in league history. But what's interesting about Peterson, of course, is that he was a big power hitter. DJ Peterson, in just about a month, hit 14 home runs, helping the Cleburne Railroaders clinch their first ever playoff spot. And typically the guys that hit for more power, there's also going to be a little more swing and miss to their game, higher strikeout totals, but that was certainly not the case with DJ Peterson, hitting 289 with two strikes. So that was a lot of fun to watch, and speaks to his talent. Of course, he's going to be heading to the Colorado Rockies organization this season.
Yeah, it was an incredible sort of just string that he went on. He was as hot as really any player's ever been toward the end of that season for Cleburne. And it's interesting to talk about. You mentioned, sort of to put in context, how low that league average is. That's the case when you look at it at the big league level too. And it's one of those things statistically where it matches up with the eye test. Everybody talks about, from a pitching perspective, you got to throw strikes, you got to get ahead in counts. It gives you an advantage over hitters. And when you see it quantified, it really is an important advantage. And for maybe fans that are looking at this sort of numbers for the first time and sort of identifying the players on here, how does a statistic like this, or really just a way of observing an at-bat like this, how does it help fans sort of better understand how valuable players are being, and the same thing for managers who are trying to get their best talent as they get ready for 2022 here, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely, Carter. And that's one of the fun things about kind of taking a look at a lot of these more advanced statistical numbers, is that you can at least use these as part of the toolbox, or part of the process, and maybe improving your numbers or improving your performance within a season, or going into next year. So maybe your two-strike batting average is lower than you would like it to be, or maybe your strikeout totals in general are higher than you'd like them to be. So you can kind of, rather than just saying, well, you're striking out too much, I think a player that has a lot of strikeouts, he already knows that. You're not going to make him feel any better just by saying you need to strike out less. I think one of the first places you can look is something like two-strike batting average. And there are some guys on that list where their two-strike batting average is actually in that maybe 190 to 200 range. So they're not doing any worse necessarily in a two-strike situation as other hitters and still have those higher strikeout totals. So maybe that's a situation where you back the chain up a little bit further and look at something like how often are they taking a first pitch strike and how often are they getting into, say, 0-1 counts that are maybe putting them behind the eight ball more often than the average hitter. And maybe that's what's ultimately leading to the higher strikeout totals. So just an opportunity to maybe break down the process on a little more granular level to try and analyze someone's performance and see if there's a way that you can help them out moving forward.
And I love how that sort of combines, a lot of times I think with people, they talk about the statistical side and the old school side. And here we are, we're talking about a statistical way that you can inform a very traditional way of trying to get somebody to get on base a little bit more and changing that two-strike approach. Something that's really cool about these stats that you've helped compile for us, Steve. And we're going to have a lot more of those stats in future videos coming up, looking at how exactly ballparks are behaving in the American Association, looking at how Rapsodo data has helped players and teams. That's coming up a little bit later on Inside the Association. Until then, for Steve Schuster, I'm Carter Woodiel. We'll say goodbye for now.